yeah, I've always think it's really important to be able to put on like a good show. Jazz is already like such a niche and sometimes hard to can be challenging to listen for like a regular audience member, and so I feel like it's really important to really put your mind into it when you're actually performing.
Welcome to episode 93 of the Bass Shed podcast. My name is Ryan Roberts. All right, as I mentioned on the last episode, Liebman Music and the Bass Shed will be launching the Bass Shed Academy in January of 2023. All right, so there's a lot of ins and outs. There's a lot of ins and outs with all this. The Bass Shed Academy is a nonprofit organization I started to support bass education and the bass community. So not only will lessons be offered through Liebman Music, but there will also be a lot of opportunities for remote lessons as well. Like, it's a whole thing. If anybody has ever started a nonprofit, you know that is not an easy task. And what I am learning is that is not at all an easy task. It's there's a lot to that. But I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And to be honest, I'm a little scared to say too much about it all until it's actually up and running and that there's, information published about it. But I am super excited about it. I'll be talking more about it and the faculty of the program as it gets closer. Liebman Music has been incredibly supportive, and I'm so happy they're on board. Stop by LiebmanMusic.com for everything you need for the double bass. Use the promo code TheBassShed, all one word, for 10% off. Now, that is not just, the whole Bass Shed Academy thing is not just a really long Liebman ad. That's actually something that's going to be really fun. It's something I'm really passionate about. In addition to this part, actually is a Liebman ad. This is, you can put this in the ad category of the talk now. Liebman is starting to carry electric basses and do that whole thing. We've been talking about that for a few months, about getting some electric basses in there, getting some electric bass gear in there, and so that's exciting. I think as someone who doubles, that's exciting for me. So they will have more information about that as it gets closer, but check out LiebmanMusic.com. All right, so recently I was asked on Twitter what determines who I interview. I was asked this by a guy named Paul Newman. Now, from what I gather, Paul listens to the podcast regularly and seems to be very, very aware of like other platforms that interview bass players and other musicians. I don't know him personally. I've never met Paul before. But he's always been very supportive and comments about the podcast and the episodes that come out. So Paul, thank you for that. And everybody, I'm going to put Paul on blast right now. Everybody should go follow Paul on Twitter. His screen name is at Levington24. Levington. Levington 24. No, like right now. Like, go do it. So I'm just going to give you a minute. 24 at the end. Yeah, that's it. All right, the reason I bring this up is because I love that Paul asked me the question. It's not really a secret that most of the guests on the podcast are not household bass player names, and that is 100% intentional. Personally, I'm really interested in hearing from cats that I haven't read a bunch of interviews from, or haven't been high profile names within the bass community for the past couple decades. I hope to use this platform to bring some attention to folks who have careers that I find interesting or have released albums that I find engaging, in hopes to connect the community a little better. And hopefully listeners of the podcast will get hit to some of these bass players and musicians that they would not have otherwise heard of or checked out. So Paul, thanks again for that, and thank you for your continued support for listening to the podcast. That directly leads me to my guest on the episode. My guest is Kaisa Mäensivu. Yeah, that's right. She definitely had to walk me through how to say that. Kaisa Mäensivu is a Finnish double bass player and composer. She is currently based in Finland. Before that, she was in New York. where she finished her master's degree at the Manhattan School of Music in 2017. She studied with teachers and professors such as Dave Liebman and Jay Anderson. Prior to moving to New York, Kaisa studied at the prestigious Sibelius Academy Jazz Department with some Finnish musicians. I'm assuming they're Finnish. I cannot pronounce their names, and I'm not even going to attempt. But that's a little bit of her backstory. Kaisa has been awarded multiple awards and grants. You can read more about Kaisa on her website at kaisamäensivu.com. Now, what I found intriguing about Kaisa is that she leads two groups with distinctive sounds, right? So one group Kaisa has is titled Kaisa's Machine, and that's a modern jazz quartet. She also leads a trio with a vibraphone player and a drummer. In that trio, she also sings and honors the jazz tradition in a different way. Her trio has much more of a straight-ahead sound. Again, stop by her website. I will have links up to that at thebasshed.com/podcast/Kaisa Mäensivu, and also to her Instagram page. It was a really fascinating talk. I really dug listening to the sound of the two groups. She also performs with the brilliant piano player, Dave Kilkowski. That was intriguing to me. And overall, it was just a really fun talk. And here it is. Here's my chat with jazz double bassist Kaisa Mäensivu. Kaisa, welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm interested in a couple things, actually. You have two different projects happening. You have your trio, and then you have the Kaisa Machine. Both very different kind of approaches to jazz. The trio is more traditional, and you sing, and then the Machine is more of a modern group. Which one started first?
Yeah, well, that's definitely that's true. Yeah, good. Well noted. It's true. They're very different. I actually the Machine was first. Kaisa's Machine was first. It was my first group as a leader.
Okay.
That I put it together, and I think it was 2015, and I had already written some originals. That was kind of a new thing for me. I was just that was when I was like getting into writing music, and then that kind of led to me wanting to put a group together to start playing that music. So that's like, I feel like Kaisa's Machine represents my musical personality a little more than the trio, which is actually it was a bit of a pandemic project.
The trio was?
I love that. Yeah, I love that trio. It's a trio with drums and vibraphone, and yeah, I sing a little bit in that too. And it's kind of like a fun project. But it was I actually so I had been living in New York, and then the pandemic hit, and I ended up moving back to my home, Finland, for a time that ended up being 1.5 years. But so I felt like I wanted to do something productive with the time, and so that's why I kind of like put that recording together, and actually ended up doing a lot of performing too.
Nice. Was that like, I remember when the pandemic hit in LA, and there was like a bunch of musicians just kind of split. Is that the scene in New York too? Did a bunch of musicians kind of go home and
totally
just kind of hang to see how the dust was going to settle?
Yeah. I mean, it's totally, everyone disappeared. And I think it's still kind of, especially I feel like my Euro friends, like more, like even more like all the Europeans left. And I feel like a lot of those people who left haven't really come back. Like a lot of people left for good. And of course, in New York, there's always a new bunch of new musicians.
Yeah. There's always young blood showing up.
Yeah.
How about you? Do you plan on returning to New York?
Yeah, I went back there about a year ago when they opened the borders again. So I was able to get in. So I went back pretty soon after that, and then then I was there until the summer, and then normally I spent summers in Europe anyway, since it's like a nice time to be here and do the festivals and stuff. And then went back in the fall, but now I'm in Europe again for a couple of tours.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess people say in the U.S. you can be bi-coastal, but I'm more like, I don't know what I am, like bi.
Yeah, both sides of the Atlantic.
Yeah, something like that.
So back to these groups, the machine is more of a modern thing, and that's when you started writing. So who were the early influences that were impacting your approach to writing?
I love Kurt. I love Kurt Rosenwinkel's writing. He's definitely one of the compositional heroes of mine, and I mean instrumentalist obviously too. And I think I was listening to a lot of Seamus Blake, and he's recordings and playing those tunes with some friends and stuff. So those are like, yeah, kind of like the modern mainstream influences of mine. Nice.
And then what were you hoping to do different? Like when you put your group together, what were you looking to do different? Were you trying to investigate some new sounds? Is that still something you're thinking about doing with the group? Instead of just repeating things you were hearing or devices that these composers use. Like, okay, well, I like when they do that, so I'm going to do that. But what were you looking to do different compositionally?
Yeah, it's a nice question. I think it kind of happened organically. Like I didn't have to think about it that much. I do when I'm listening to something, I do tend to get like influences and actually sometimes use like some other people's ideas to start to build something my own. But I feel like for me, it's like it just kind of happens more naturally, where it just becomes a thing of my own rather than doing it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm doing anything that original. It's pretty hard today.
Yeah, I know.
To actually create anything that original, but
yeah, because someone like, can listen to anything and be like, "Oh, that sounds like this," and that combined. Everything is just one or two things.
Yeah.
But then, so leading to getting into the trio project, had you already been singing? Was that something you just started to investigate for yourself, or were you already a trained vocalist, or what's your history as a vocalist?
I've been doing it for fun, kind of just kind of randomly here and there. I did take some voice lessons when I was studying at the Manhattan School of Music.
Okay.
I had like some spare electives, so that I could use, and I used them for the voice lessons, which was really fun and interesting. And it's pretty fascinating how the voice works as an instrument. And I'm really just like beginning to understand it, like anything about it. But I have been singing and playing in this. It's a quartet with 3 other vocalists. It's a group called Signe, and it's 3 singers and me on bass and voice.
Oh wow!
And it's just it's a good friend of mine who put that group together. It's more like on the, I don't know if I like the word avant-garde, but it's more on the like freer side of things. It's
20th century. Is it improvised? Is there improvisational elements, or is it
a lot
composed?
Of improvisation.
Okay.
But also a lot of like through composed stuff. But all of the singers are like jazz, like jazz educated. So
okay.
So there's that language, but then like the actual material is not very traditional. But so that was the singer who put that group together. She kind of made me, think. She wanted me to.
You got roped into it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so first it started as like doing backgrounds and doing like harmonies with the band, but then I actually got some of my own solo stuff too, and I realized like this is actually pretty fun.
What material do you play in that group? Do they write their own material? Is it kind of all inclusive like that?
Yeah, it's 2 of the people in the group write for that specific group. It's a pretty challenging instrumentation in a way. There's 3 female or 4 female voices, and then the bass, which is like all the way at the bottom of the range, and then the voices are up high. So it's like there's a lot of stuff missing kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
But I like the concepts. And so we have other like commissions, I guess, like people write for that, other people write for that group.
Okay.
As well.
Cool. What years were you at Manhattan School?
So I did an exchange from 2014 to 2015.
Okay.
And then after that exchange year, I wanted to stay, as some of my professors already told me in the beginning of the year, like, this is going to happen to you. You're not going to want to go back home. You're going to stay in New York. So why don't you just start, like, you know, kind of doing
figuring that out.
Exchanges like doing those stuff as you would be in the degree program. But I was like, no, I want to go back to Finland. Like, I love my home. But yeah, then I did end up wanting to stay, but then I was missing certain like credits, I guess.
Okay.
So the easiest way to do that was to go back home and finish my bachelor's at my home school, which was this school called Sibelius Academy in Helsinki. And so I had to stay there for a full year. And then during that year, I applied to do the actual program at MSM. And so went back there 2016. And then graduated 2017.
Who'd you study with there?
They had Jay Anderson and Harvey S.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny how the bass faculty has changed.
Since then?
Yeah. Now they have they had Larry Ridley back then.
Okay.
You know, this guy, he's I guess a little obscure, but he's from that Lee Morgan album, Cornbread Boy.
Yeah.
He was there. Somehow I wasn't really hip enough to like know about him. I didn't know, and no one was studying with him for I don't know whatever reason that was, but somehow he was just kind of forgotten. And then so yeah, I did most of my studies I did with Jay, and then a little bit with Harvey S. But now they have Ron, and they have Buster Williams is there too.
Right.
And yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, sweet. When did you start playing?
When?
Yeah.
I was 14, I think.
Okay. Right into double bass, or did you start on electric?
No, I went right into the upright. I was playing piano. I started on piano when I was 6. I was playing a lot of classical piano and also a little bit of like other kinds of music. But yeah, then went straight to the upright. That's
an interesting jump for a 14-year-old to go from piano right to the double bass. What was that like? Did someone suggest it? Did you fill in at the school orchestra on it and then just stuck with it, or did a family member play it, or did you hear something? Like, what was the impetus to make the jump?
I think, if I remember right, I was kind of like getting fed up with the piano. I love music. Like, I really loved music, and I loved kind of doing I would play for fun and kind of do more like, I would always collect these charts where they have like chords and stuff where I could do like something kind of more free than like read a piece of classical music. So, but somehow I was getting a little tired of going to the piano lessons and practicing the stuff. So maybe that's where it started.
Okay, just burnout. It started as burnout.
Yeah.
You burnt out. Yeah.
Just needed something else.
But as a composer, I'm sure you appreciate the piano training when you got into composition.
Oh my gosh, so much. Yeah, it's so useful. Yeah.
Right. Have you pursued, educating yourself in jazz piano or anything since leaving the classical instruction?
I did, yeah. I actually came back soon after. Like, I just had a little break, and then I was ready to play some piano again. So yeah, I did a bunch of classical or like jazz studies too.
Okay.
Like a side instrument. But back to how I found the bass. It was it's like this TV show where there's like a jury and they watch new music videos and kind of judge them.
So they judge the new music videos, like a singing competition, like American Idol, but it's for videos.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay. I don't know if that existed. I've never known of it in America, but that doesn't mean anything because I don't watch TV that much.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's kind of a cool concept. I don't think they even do that here anymore, but
okay.
But they had I don't know if you know this band. I think it's Irish. It's like a folk band called The Course.
The Course?
The Course. They're like 5 siblings.
Yeah.
Playing kind of acoustic. Yeah.
Yeah, the dude that cut those records is a friend of mine. The bass player on those records. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
because I think they, at least on that music video, they had a female, one of the sisters was playing bass.
Yeah, that makes sense for the video.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense for the video than having Lance on it.
That's funny. So yeah, I mean that kind of changed my world. I was like,
really?
Actually, I could do that. That looks so cool.
So she was playing upright?
Huh?
She was playing upright on the video, and that was it. And then you're just like, I'm going to do this. She can play upright. Yeah. I can play upright. Yeah. All right. So you get inspired by the music video. And then what do? You rent a bass? Does the school have a bass? Where do you?
My school had a bass. My school had a bass, and I got to try it immediately. They were, it's. I guess, like you said, it's kind of a not the most common thing for a teenager to play.
To show interest in. Yeah,
they were excited, and they gave me the bass to try right away, and luckily it wasn't like the worst ever bass. I mean, not like I remember that.
That's
clearly,
shocking.
But
coming from a school bass, like most school basses, the strings haven't been changed in 35 years. The action's a mile and a half high, On top of that, it's just a piece of crap to begin with. And then it's got a terrible setup and old strings.
Yeah. So how's anyone going to get excited about playing the bass?
Yeah, exactly. That's actually kind of a thing. Like, I don't know how they would think young players would stick with this instrument when the instrument is so uninspiring to play. They sound bad and they're like, just starting, as you know, when you just start playing upright, it's so defeating, it's because it's such a physical instrument and you don't know all the mechanics yet. And you're still figuring it out. So already the instrument is kind of defeating, let alone a bad instrument on top of it. Oof. But you did it. Yeah. You stuck it out.
I did it. I think I got lucky with the bass. Yeah, it must have been like some kind of like an okay condition for me to be able to, enjoy getting some notes out of it. And I remember that, like playing some open strings and like getting I don't know what kind of sound I got out of it, but like a sound.
Right. Producing really some version of a sound. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I've always just loved the acoustic sound of the bass.
Same. Was it the school band director that was giving you private instruction, or did you get into lessons with it pretty quick?
So actually in the music school where I was taking the classical lessons, they had one bass teacher that would come in like once a week.
Okay.
And I got to take lessons with her. Turned out that was also like classical bass. Okay. I didn't, because in the music video, she was using a bow, so I wasn't expecting to get a bow.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure.
So I was a little disappointed when they handed me the bow.
You just wanted to be in the video. You just wanted to be the woman in the music video.
Yeah, and play, pluck the strings.
Yeah.
Not the bow.
Right. The pop songs that are hits.
Yeah.
What they give you, French or German? Which one did you learn on?
German.
Okay. You still play German?
I do. Yeah. What about you?
I play German also. I was talking with the bass player yesterday that plays French, and we were talking about how that happens, how we just kind of gravitate towards one. and why that is. Like we were investigating that idea. Like he had played violin previously, so the overhand grip was more natural to him. But there's something about when I was starting playing upright, like I had a teacher that had me check them both out and taught me the grips, and the French grip felt foreign to me. Like the underhanded German grip felt a lot more natural.
Right. I mean, I guess everyone's always going to defend their choice, but I feel like you can really get more of the hand weight naturally on the German.
Yeah,
like
we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We were talking about that because just the nature of the arm, and like since it's a big pulling motion, the weight of your arm, it seems like that's more intuitive to me when you're taught to relax your arm and pull from the weight of your arm and all that, and not just the grip. That's more intuitive to me with the underhand grip versus on top but then I could also see that because then the weight of your arm is going down into the bow and down into the string.
Right. Yeah.
So, I guess it's probably really just like whatever you learn on.
Yeah.
Whatever you learn on, or whatever feels the most natural to you, then you just stick with that.
Right.
I don't think I know anybody that plays both at the same level. I think everybody I know has a preference to one.
Right.
But it's a fascinating thing why people like I'm almost like the psychology behind why people choose the bow that they do. It's interesting to me.
Yeah, and also like at the point when you choose, you don't really know that much. Like it's pretty much just like maybe what's available or what your teacher is doing. Like it's not really a super educated decision at that point.
No, it's not. It's not an educated decision at all. Nothing I was doing at that point in my playing was educated, let alone choosing what style of bow. So you go through fundamental classical training. You're just learning the instrument with the bow and sound production and intonation and all that stuff. Right.
Yeah, I did a lot of that in the first few years.
And then at what point did you get into jazz?
That was, well, I had been, I guess I had been hearing some jazz at home. My mom would play these couple recordings she had, and then she would always take me so I grew up in this smaller town, an hour north of Helsinki, the capital, but they have these like government funded jazz tours that I'm actually starting on Monday. It's like a 2-week tour that takes you all over the country, and nice. I guess the idea is to bring jazz to even the more like remote kind of small towns.
Yeah. That's cool.
So there would be, those tours would always come to that town where I grew up, and then we would always go see or hear those shows. So I'm sure that had a bit of an influence on me, and that's also like where I already saw some bass players live. But I think with the chorus, it was just like, it was really important that it was a woman playing the bass. Like, because I just didn't think of it as it just didn't like come to my mind.
Who were some of those role models for you besides the music video and the woman in the chorus? who are some female role model bass players for you?
I should really find out what's her name, actually. From the music video.
Yeah.
But
she probably doesn't even know how to play the bass, like at all. And she's just playing along. She had some lesson to learn how to get through that song well enough on camera. That's hilarious. But then she inspired your whole career. It's hilarious.
Well done. But other female bass players, I mean, there aren't that many. Esperanza was the first one that I kind of found and checked out, and then I love Linda. She's definitely someone I admire.
Sure. It seems like there's not a lot. I mean, like percentage wise, from like male bass players to female bass players, there's not a lot. But I think Esperanza has inspired quite a few of a younger generation, especially as vocalists too, and making that thing approachable.
Right. there are definitely more female bass players coming up, and I think it's just like really, it has a huge impact when you see
Sure.
when as a girl you see a woman playing the bass. It's just somehow it's important to like
Right.
see that, actually understand that you can do it too.
Right. It was just that simple, right? Just like when you saw the woman playing the bass, it was like, oh,
Yeah,
it's
I think
possible.
so.
Yeah. All right. So you were in piano when you were young. Is anybody else in your family musical?
My mom plays piano. Yeah, she's
Okay.
still just for a hobby, not as a profession.
Okay. But
And from her side, there's some musicality there.
okay. But nobody's a pro.
No.
The reason I ask is because the fact that your mother played, or it could have been, anybody in your family. But now that you mentioned it was your mother, did that not have the same inspiration to you?
Sorry, say that again.
You're like your mother's playing, so like clearly you grew up in an environment where like women playing music is possible, because you grew up in it. But what was it about seeing a woman play the bass that seemed to really do the trick? What was it about the bass that wanted you make you start playing the instrument and kind of empowered you to go on this path? Seemed like a very impactful. I'm gonna have to track down this music video. This music video is life-changing cinema.
Right. I would actually want to see that again too.
Do you remember the song?
No.
I think they only had a couple hits. Like that was a short-lived band. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up while we're talking. What was that, like late 90s? I'm trying to think of when they were.
Yeah, something like that. Or it must be like early 2000s. I'm born in 1990.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, probably 2013, 14. They were, the siblings were like all over. It was like maybe it was like a barn or something, and they were just like placed in different locations with the instruments. And
there's 4 of them. They were active from. This is turning into the Core's research project. This is hilarious. They're an Irish family,
right?
Pop rock and traditional Irish music, basically from 1990 to 2015.
So that might have been their peak.
Yeah, that's kind of when they're on the way out. Trying to find where the hits are. Did you ever own any of the records? Because it's giving me record names.
Oh no, I don't think I even did.
Okay, really? You didn't even buy the record? Like, I'm surprised you wouldn't want to buy the record.
Yeah.
Hilarious. This whole thing is funny to me.
Yeah, I think it's like still it was never really the music they played.
Sure.
I mean,
that makes 100% sense. Okay. So here's Breathless, Radio, What Can I Do, Runaway, Dreams, Irresistible, All the Love in the World, So Young, and then Una Noche.
Irresistible rings a bell, but I can't. I need to go back and
yeah, I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah,
I remember them having like 1 or 2 really, really big hits.
Right. Yeah, they were big at that time.
Yeah.
Or I guess just for a short moment.
I mean, that's enough. They're probably still making money off it. I mean, we're still talking about them, so they're clearly influential. All right. Well, I'll finish my research project later. So it was something about this woman playing the bass that inspired you to play the bass. Okay, have you reflected on that to think about what was that? What was that? It was a new instrument that you hadn't played. It empowered you to pursue this career as a musician and completely switch instruments. Because it wasn't like you saw a piano player that was, your age doing something. There's a really heavy moment for you, this music video.
Yeah. I'm sure it had something to do with it also that I had seen some jazz bands playing live, like there was like some interest towards the music. I mean, they were all dudes that I saw playing live, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm sure that's sure. What I just didn't really. I couldn't really understand that it would be something for me. So So, but there was a little bit of interest towards the music already, and I also remember I had this just general, I guess it's like a teenager thing where you kind of want to be doing something different. Like I wanted to, like, whether it's like clothing or your hobbies or something, but you like some like I definitely had this thing where I kind of wanted to do the
I think that's totally normal. Yeah. You're just
Yeah.
trying to establish your identity and being unique. And, so
Right.
most people just hop on this kind of bandwagon of being a contrarian, and whatever everybody else is doing, I'm going to do the opposite because, I'm unique and I need to go. Even though I think
Something like
at
that.
that age, no one knows who they are. You have to go through this process of figuring it out.
Yeah.
All right. So that's actually fascinating that the bass is that tied to your just kind of adulthood development.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. So what were the records that you had heard, like jazz records that you were checking out that were really, that you'd revisit a lot, for music inspiration before you were really, really getting into jazz and studying harmony and rhythm and all that stuff?
Right. Well, before I really got into it, I think we just had a couple of like really, really classic records at home, like kind of Blue,
okay,
and some Coltrane and Blue Train, like some of those like really classic recordings. And my mom would play those at the house. It's not that I would really like stop and listen. They were kind of just playing in the background. And sometimes, like after I had picked up the bass and I went to lessons, I started to like kind of try to hear the bass more. Like even that was kind of hard in the beginning, like starting like separating that sound from the other instruments and like trying to hear what the bass is doing.
Yeah, and on some of the recordings, like the recordings are just not recorded well, so like that's difficult too.
Yeah, we have some old Count Basie recordings too, and that's like sound quality is just so crappy. Like
right.
Yeah, it's hard to hear that. And then it was hard. Like I wasn't super into it. It was more like, well, I guess now that I'm playing this instrument, I should kind of like try to understand like the role of it and stuff.
Right.
But then, yeah, that was kind of like when I was still like before my high school and when I got to like music schools and stuff. And that's when I like really, really got into it.
Was at the music school?
Right. Yeah. So I moved to Helsinki and I got to do this program. So like a jazz conservatory, like music school level. But while I was going to high school, I could do that program.
Nice.
And I got like a real jazz bass teacher and a lot of, I just started to listen to a lot more recordings. I think for me, like something that really, really hit me was the Miles Second Quintet, just hearing Ron do those.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's
crazy, like reharms. I mean, that was just, and it's still
like
something.
All the Plug Nickel records are like the best recordings ever.
Yeah,
those are my favorites.
That's definitely that's some stuff I still always go back to, and it was just, I feel like it was kind of important that at that point I already knew something about the music, like. And I was able to play, I knew Autumn Leaves, and like, I guess it helps to understand what's going on. And then, then you're like, well, this is the chord that's on the chart that I've learned, but wait, what is this guy doing? Like, it's out of this world.
Right. Yeah. That was like, I had a similar response, like being young and starting to get into studying the music and listening to Bill Evans and like, okay, what's going on here? Like, all these roles, that's, they don't teach me to play like that. This whole conversation soloistic thing. And so it took me quite a while to then even just learn all the individuality of sounds and approach and, what's possible outside of just doing your role.
Right. And that's what's so fascinating about jazz. Like, and that's what really got me into it. Like just realizing that it's actually a lot of freedom and a lot of your own things you can do. You can be so creative inside the format, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, freedom within form. That's the whole deal with it. Now, having two different groups that are very distinct distinctly different sounding and approaches to it. How does each group change the way you play? I mean, if you forget about the the modern thing is more even and the traditional thing is more swung, forget the approach to the eighth note, but how does it line development and how you're going to respond and all that stuff?
I don't know. I mean, one thing that I do when I write is I actually, just like we talked in the beginning, I do a lot of writing on the piano.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I sometimes end up writing something a little challenging for the bass. When it's like if I write something on the piano and then it doesn't sit on the bass that well. So it's like I kind of like that challenge. Now, recently when I've been writing, I feel like my writing has already changed a lot since the first album that I did with the machine, but and I do it more on the bass. Actually, I try to come up with amps and melodies and bass lines more on the bass, so that it's like kind
of a little bit more natural to play.
Right.
Yeah.
But then there's also like I kind of like the idea that you just actually write what you hear without being limited by the instrument.
Sure.
So that's what I like about doing everything on the piano.
Right. So, but you're still writing what you hear. It's coming out on a piano, and you can play it on piano. So it's like, is your piano palette, is your piano facility, like your left hand, more comfortable to get around than as it would lay on the bass? Like what you play in your left hand on the piano just doesn't sit well on the bass and isn't natural to like hand positions and stuff.
Right, that's the thing. Like sometimes on the piano you might write like some crazy intervals that just don't really make sense in the bass, or even I guess it's really about the like some jumps that just aren't natural.
Yeah, just geometry of the bass thing.
Right.
But as far as just playing in the groups, like do you still have a similar approach, or do you try to like tweak how you approach the music based on, well, this is more modern, that's more traditional, so I'm going to speak more of a traditional vocabulary versus a modern, well, kind of the gloves are off, I can go wherever I want to?
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. It's I think actually not so much. It's really it's just I don't think about that so much. It's true that if the context is different, it might change, and it's probably could sound different, but it's not something I would really think that much. But yeah, obviously if there's more like a standard type tune, like a confirmation or whatever I would play with the trio, yeah, we would do some arrangements of tunes, like if I didn't know what time it was then or stuff like that. And then when you have all these few vibes and changes, it kind of course makes you play a certain way. Whereas if you have more open sounds and different types of chords, it just kind of automatically creates probably a little different sound. But not that I would think about it so much. It's really just happens in the moment.
I'm fascinated to speak to someone in Finland about European jazz, because as an American, right, like our into it is obviously the ECM label. And so like if you go to just clubs in Finland, is this just how people play? Is everybody doing the kind of really pastel, shifting colors ECM thing with not a lot of tension and release and not a lot of blues in it, and it's very just that European sound? Is that common over there?
It's common. It's funny how actually Finland kind of sticks out from at least the other Scandinavian countries, because we have more of a straight ahead scene here, which is interesting. I think it has a lot to do with the school and just this one or two guys really who kind of studied and grew up in New York and were part of the scene over there for some time, and then decided to start the school to kind of like make sure that they have people to play with when they are 50 years old. So this happened in the 70s or 80s. And then that school, it's really small department, and that's where I did my undergrad, but it's just like 5 people a year.
Oh wow.
But
total?
it's like one yeah. Wow. Like one band.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about that is you get a lot of attention from the
and they have it's good, and they have a lot of funding. They have great visitors all the time. They brought Dave Kilkowski this week here. I did a tour with him here, and then he did some teaching at the school, and they always bring like a ton of people from the U.S. to do like master classes and some teaching.
Yeah.
And so here it's really, and the clubs are pretty straight ahead oriented.
Really?
Not all of them, but it is really quite like that. But then when you go to Sweden or Norway, I think it changes a lot.
Okay.
Then it kind of varies. Different countries have, like, then again, I feel like Copenhagen has a pretty strong straight ahead scene. They also have a lot of more free avant-garde stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of varies. But there's definitely a lot more of that open ECM vibe.
Yeah.
Here than in New York, for example.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. New York's its own thing. You just mentioned it. You did a tour with Kilkowski. You've been doing a little bit of touring with him for a decent amount of time, right? Like, this wasn't a one-off tour, is my question.
Right. Yeah, we've done some playing, not a crazy amount, but we've done some playing together. How'd you
get involved?
Let's see, how did that go? I was he's playing a lot around New York. He's doing a lot of club dates, and you can hear him a lot, actually. And he's a nice guy, and I've sat in with him a couple of times and played in a jam session. I'm just like seeing him around all the time.
Okay.
And then I think that the first gig we did together was I had him play with my band, actually. I played at Falls with the Kaisa Machine, and then I had him on that gig. So that was, I think, a first gig we did together. And then later we were playing on the same festival, and then he needed a bass player in his trio, kind of last minute, and I was around. So that's
what happened? What happened to his bass player?
I don't know. What I think happened is he got the gig. Some other pianist had to bail kind of last minute. Oh yeah, and I remember there was some health issue with some other pianist, and then they got Dave, and then he needed someone who's kind of around. So it was kind of like
in my mind, they had booked David, and then like his bass player just went absent, and he needed a bass player. Like, I mean, who's this guy?
That can happen too.
Yeah, it can totally happen, but it's
you
would hope not. That would be the case.
But also with flights being kind of crazy this summer, and like, you never know.
Right.
And COVID still kind of being around too. So
yeah,
things happen. And then it's always kind of sad for someone who had to cancel, but then those are kind of like opportunities always then for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got to play with him there, and then it's just been you guys have just been doing gigs since?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been doing some playing, and now just this past week, he was invited here to Finland by this one festival, and then I was able to hook up some other stuff around it too. So it was kind of like a collab.
Nice. What have you learned? Like, he's clearly a veteran. What have you learned from playing with him? Like, not even like verbally, but just playing with him. What have you learned? Or, I mean, if it's been verbal and he's talked about it, but I know like most of my musician friends, when we're on a gig, we don't ever talk about music. You know, like, you don't ever talk about music on a gig, and I'm sure it's the same with most other people. It happens at the music, and then once you're off stage, you're off stage.
Yeah. I like that too. I used to do that, like, as a student. You would like really want to talk through every little mistakes everybody makes. But I'm so glad that's like thing anymore.
Yeah, we could leave that in the youth. I don't want to talk about it. Like, unless something funny happened and I can make fun of somebody about it, there's no point in talking about it.
for sure.
Right.
Well, his energy is insane. It's like out of this world. It doesn't matter what kind of instrument you have or where you're playing or what the audience is like or what happened before the gig, or it's just like he is always just 110%.
Oh wow.
It's pretty amazing. So that's something I'm jealous of, like, or just admiring that.
Is that something you've had to kind of check yourself on? It's like where your head's at and like how that impacts your level of commitment to the music. Because if you're around him all the time and he's just giving 110% to the music and you're witnessing that, if it were me, I'd be like, what's wrong with me? How come I'm not? Like, I got to kind of get my head right before I go out on stage so I can be capable of doing the same thing.
He just draws you with him. Like there's no other way. Like it's just playing with Dave. Like it's just you're just taking like a ride. It's I didn't playing with him. I would never. It would just totally like pull. His energy would just pull you like with him. But for like other situations, then it's something I thought about, like how to kind of keep that, like when Dave is not there to help you out, like how to create that and how to maybe try to bring like to affect other musicians too and try to like bring them to that energy level.
Yeah. Is that something you're also like been conscious of when leading your own groups, is to like show up and just be this energetic force to really, steer the music that way?
It is. Yeah. I've always think it's really important to be able to put on like a good show. Jazz is already like such a niche and sometimes can be challenging to listen for like a regular audience member. And
I agree.
And so I feel like it's really important to really put your mind into it when you're actually performing, and that's what can make a change. Like it's not that the listener is gonna understand what you necessarily like, the notes or the horn you just played or whatever it was, but the energy I think they can really sense and feel.
Yeah.
And so it is really important. And as a leader, I think it's kind of it comes naturally when you know that you're responsible of everything and you're like kind of leading the band, and it's like a certain energy when you're a leader.
Does that come natural to you, being the leader and doing that thing? Because I remember like the first couple gigs I led, it did not come natural. And I don't even know if it still comes natural or not. I don't feel as awkward. I know that. But the first ones were just like, what do you want to play? And everybody's staring at me like, dude, it's your gig. I'm like, I don't know. I was just so uncomfortable. Is that something that comes natural to you? Is leading the band and giving direction and calling the shots?
I think now it does. First, I definitely had some hardnesses too, but now it's more natural, and I love that I'm able to take the responsibility of what we're gonna play and in what order, and I really love to be super on top of everything, because especially in New York, after doing. It's something that doesn't happen so much in the Finnish scene, but like the pickup gigs where you just play with a kind of whoever shows up on the gig, you don't even know who's going to be there or
right.
What you're
just
play.
Calling tunes, yeah.
Right. And so that's like more not nerve-wracking, but like it's harder for me. Like I like to be a little more prepared and know what I'm going to go do, and because sometimes it's even, I mean, of course, it's like a background gig, it doesn't matter, but I feel like it's even like you could play at Smalls and just like show up, and 5 minutes before you get like some charts in front of you, and then you're just gonna have to kill it. And I like the challenge, but I also like to be prepared.
I kind of like that the best, when you just show up and they hand you charts, because maybe they had time to send it out, maybe they didn't, if it's just everybody meeting there for the first time. But not too much is required of you. You know what I mean? Like you still have to do your job and play the music well, but the bar's low. If I had the music
That's
for a
true.
week and a half, then like, dude, there's no reason that you should be, getting lost on this. But if they just hand it to me and it's some weird, 13/8 thing with 2 codas and, it's a train wreck of a chart, like, all right, dude, well, whatever. This is on you. Like this, like I have no responsibility here really to nail this.
Right.
I mean, I wish I could every time in those settings, but I haven't always. And when they just hand you the music, it's like, all right, well, let's just see what happens. So
Right.
I don't mind that as much. But I do feel like there's a weird thing from going from bands or situations that are super prepared and then going to the gigs where you have no idea who's going to be on the gig or what you're going to play. That's nerve-wracking. Just making those jumps. Because if you do a bunch of gigs where you have no idea who's going to be there, what you're going to play, fine. All right, we'll just get through it. It's fine. And then you get called for something that's super prepared. You're like, oh, wow, like I'm not used to preparing for gigs. Usually I just show up. But then when you're doing the prepared thing and you have to show up to the one that's super loose, like it's an interesting mindset to jump back and forth between.
Right. I feel like that's the whole freelance life. Like it's just, you never know what's ahead of you. Like and every day, every week is so different. And it's just, you never know.
Right.
Truly just always like have to be kind of ready for an adventure.
Which I like the variety of it. That's always fun.
Sure.
What do you got coming up? What's on the horizon?
Well, now I'm doing this Jazz Federation tour that I mentioned earlier. It's like a 2-week tour around Finland. We're playing the saxophone player Max Zenger's music. Actually just released an album today. I think it came out.
Cool. Are you on the record?
Like an album. Yeah.
Nice.
An album release tour. And after that, I'm heading back to New York.
Okay.
And we'll be there until next March, I think. Well, I mean, some travel, but nothing crazy.
Hold on, the next March, is that March 2024 or March 2023?
Oh no, 23.
Okay, so you'll be there to March. That's a healthy amount of time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to actually being there.
I mean, that's a extended stay. Like, do you have an apartment over there? How can you just?
Oh yeah, I have a place.
I
just got a new place, and it's not super ready yet, but yeah, I'm planning on staying there more now.
Nice. And then, so what's the scene like in Finland though? Like, is it creatively inspiring, and can you make a living in Finland? Yeah,
everything is funded pretty well. You have a lot of grants for the arts and jazz, and you have a good amount of performance opportunities. I think, it's still a really small country, and there is
how many people? Like, how big is it? I don't know anything about it.
It's 5.5 million, so it's tiny.
Oh wow, okay.
It's really tiny.
Yeah.
So considering that, it's like I would think it's pretty healthy jazz scene.
Okay.
And you can make a living. Gigs pay generally a lot better here. And
then
so,
in the States?
You don't have to you can do four gigs a month and live off of that.
Gosh.
But of course amazing. That can get a little boring. It's amazing, but it gets pretty limited after some time.
Yeah. But this is, I'm sure like the classic musician thing. Whatever you're not doing, you always want to be doing. So like pre-pandemic, I was doing like a solid amount of gigs. Like I was working a lot. But then like that has its own thing. Then I was just getting burnt out on like doing the same types of gigs, or, like my playing got stale because it was just like, all right, here we go. Who's on this one? Great, fine. You stopped caring because it was so routine. So if they're spread out more, then it gives you kind of something to look forward to. You can prepare. You can make sure you're on your game. You have time and headspace to practice and still stay creative within yourself.
Right.
So that seems like the silver lining for that thing is because it's super easy to get burnt out. At least it was for me here in LA. Like just playing all the time, which was great, and all the musicians were fantastic. But it's just like it was paint by numbers after a while. It's like, all right, here's another one, and that sucked.
Yeah, it's actually you don't have to do any kind of like gigs you don't want to do necessarily
Right.
here. Like
That's the
you
dream.
can, yeah, and then it's great to have the time in between. You're right. It's like you can really you have more time to be creative and write your own music and actually there is a huge original music scene here. It's like everyone has their own band and are putting out music and
on like within creative music and within improvised music, or just in general on the scene, like everybody's a singer songwriter that way, or like across the board everybody's a creator.
I think more on the jazz or improvised music scene.
Okay.
Somehow that's still like the singer. I was hanging out earlier today with my singer songwriter friend who's like struggling a little bit. Like it's that they don't have that much funding in that. Like they don't see the grant suppliers don't see that kind of music as such an art form as jazz or
interesting.
Or yeah,
that's kind of a bummer.
Not as much funding. Yeah, it really.
I mean, if you think about it just from like a business sense, which I don't know how any of that works when it comes to government grants and stuff funding the artist specifically or directly. But just from a business sense, like singer-songwriter or any kind of music with lyrics is automatically going to sell better and probably have more of an influence than a trio or quartet playing improvised stuff. At least in the States, like it's the complete opposite. Like no one cares, about jazz in LA.
Well, that's exactly why they don't have the funding, because they see it as something that already is.
It's self-sustainable already, so right, it doesn't need assistance. So, I got it. Okay.
Yeah, and there is like some truth to that for sure. Like jazz would probably be pretty non-existent if there wasn't all that support.
Sure. Sure. Any new records coming down the pike with either of your groups?
I'm recording in December in New York with Kaisa Machine.
Nice.
I have a whole new set of new music. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Same guys, same group?
Oh, it'll be New York guys. Yeah.
Okay. Who's in the band?
I'll reveal that later.
Oh. So either it's not locked in yet. That's probably what I would say if I'm still waiting for an email back from the drummer. I don't know if he's going to do it or not. All right. That's fair. Look forward to. So you're recording it in December. What's your projected release date on that?
It'll be in spring of 23.
Okay, that's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah. May 23 is the goal for now.
Okay. How many tunes?
It'll be 8 tunes.
8 tunes. All original?
Yeah, all my originals.
Do you ever do covers or like do an arrangement of a standard or anything with the machine? Or is it always all original?
Maybe sometimes on gigs I would do that, but not really so much on the albums. I haven't really done that, but sometimes I would play like tune as an encore or something like that.
Yeah, just to fill out a set,
to lighten it up.
Lighten it up. So, I was also curious about was there any relationship to Elvin Jones' Jazz Machine when you named your group?
Yeah, I was aware of that Elvin had that group, but it's a cool band.
Okay, yeah, it is a cool name, but I mean, having a jazz group with that at this day and age, it's just like, okay, clearly I'm going to think of Elvin. I was just wondering how strong that was when you decided to do it.
It was I was looking for a name that would be something else than first name last name quartet. Like
sure.
I wanted something more interesting, and then that I came up with that idea, and then my concern was a little bit like, is it too similar to that, or that group Florence and the Machine,
right?
So I had those two that I was like, this is like cutting too close. Like
I didn't even think about that one until right now. Actually, I didn't even think about Florence. But right.
Yeah. So there are those, but I figured it's with my name it's
there's also Rage Against. How many bands have machine in it?
Right. Yeah, it's because I feel like a jazz band can kind of be like a machine. I mean, it's not like in a mechanical way, but it's like parts working together.
Absolutely.
And creating something out of it.
Absolutely. Is there a specific concept you have when writing for that band? I bring this up because I'm wrapping up my own record right now. And that album has a lot of I'm inspired by street art with that group. So there's a lot of pieces on there that are response to street art. So when I write for that band, that's it. Like I write that way for that band. That being said, when you write for the machine, is it a specific concept you write within for the band? Or do you write for the players specifically, or how does that band dictate your writing?
Well, I do keep the instrumentation in mind, but now with this next album, it's also like some of the tunes are like, okay, so this is what came out of my head.
Okay.
And now I have to figure out like who's going to be, or like what instrumentation is going to work the best. And then I can kind of do the arrangement. Like there are a couple of tunes like that where I just wrote the tune and didn't really think about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's really it's just music, I guess. I don't have like other inspiration really than music. I have been doing a lot of, now that I've been trying to write more on the bass or come up with stuff when I'm noodling on the bass. I do write a lot of vamps.
Yeah,
there are a lot of.
It just happens that way. You're like, yeah. Yeah. And then the problem with that, like, there's a fair amount of that on my record too. And the problem with that is you can find like great records, like if you listen, you can listen to a fair amount of Dave Holland and be like, oh, he does it, then I can do it. Like it gives you license just to write the vamps, but it can easily turn into a cop-out.
Right. Well, Dave Holland, I thought he left Miles' group because he didn't want to play vamps. Like that's why he took the vamps.
I have so many records with him where
like writes only vamps.
Yeah, where it's like odd meter vamps, and like he was his writing was a big influence on me. For that reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many records where he just plays these strong bass lines, but they're an odd meter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but vamps, I like it. I think it creates a nice fulcrum for everybody to pivot around. You had like this one constant as the bass line, and like so much can happen around that.
Right. It's like thing that for some time I was thinking like these like modern, like more open the grooves and vamps kind of stuff. It's like I want to, as a bass player, I want to keep it interesting, meaning I want to like do a lot of variation and play kind of be like improvising over the vamp also, even if it's not me playing a solo or anything. But I have just noticed that it's like a really cool sound when the bass player just plays down the groove and just like sticks to it. It makes it more just keeps it together very nicely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm specifically thinking of Scott Colley bass line on Chris Potter's record Gratitude.
Oh yeah.
So the tune is High Noon in 13. And like,
oh yeah,
like the way Scott plays 13 under the solos, he never loses the pocket of it, but he's not sticking to that bass line either. Like that's just his playing on that tune is such a masterclass in like how to address vamps and bass lines and stuff like that, and still like nod at it and keep the pulse of it, but play around it all at the same time. Like it's genius.
So clear and like simple, but still like.
Yeah, it's a great record. It's a great record.
Yeah, sure.
Kaisa, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me. chatting with you.
You're gonna have to let me know who the band is when that record comes out, and what the song was by the Chorus.
Right.
Yeah. I need to know what that is. I'm definitely gonna look it up. Yeah. All right. That was my talk with Kaisa Mäensivu. So after we finished the interview, I definitely tried to track down that music video. The music video of the Chorus that has the female bassist in it. I must have looked at like almost every official music video that the Chorus have on their YouTube page, and I didn't find it. And so then I messaged her. I'm like, yo, I can't seem to find it. She was hilarious. She's like, yeah, I looked for it too. I don't know what happened. So this music video that seemed to have been the catapult, been the instigator for her to start playing the double bass and her whole career doesn't seem to exist. This oasis of a music video. I still find that hilarious. If you are enjoying the Bass Shed podcast, please hit subscribe wherever you are listening to it. Feel free to leave a rating and a comment. That's about all I got for this one, folks. I will catch you on the next one in a minute.